I'm Yu-Gi-Oh! Blade Knight and I'm talking Necrovalley in this video. I'm going to explain you why you should want to run Necrovalley and in which decks you want to run it. So, in order to explain what, first of all, you're going through Necrovalley. The unimportant part is all Gravekeeper monsters gain 500 attacks. It's a field spell. Uh, Cards in other players' graveyard cannot be banished. Negate any card effect that would move a card in the graveyard other than itself to a different place. That's the most important part. It's really you have to keep in mind that it does not prevent effects that of cards that just move themselves from the graveyard. So if for example the Shadow Falco is destroyed by a card effect, it can still special summon itself. So the strongest deck in the format is Necros. So let's look what Necrovalley can do against Necros. First of all, Necros of Trishula cannot activate his effect to banish card because he cannot. It's not possible for for Trishula to banish cards from the graveyard. So this entire effect does not work. Your opponent can also not protect himself with Necros of Valkyries because he obviously has to banish a card from his graveyard. Necros of Unicorn cannot end cards back. Quite simple. And for the mirrors, you cannot banish the mirrors to search for another mirror, and especially Necros mirror and cycle are weakened a lot because you cannot banish cards as a tribute for Necros mirror, and you cannot special summon from the graveyard with Necros cycle. So basically, the Necro spells don't really have any bonus effect aside from Kaleidoscope, which still can send cards from the extra deck. And the power play of Preparation of Rites does lose its aspect of getting a ritual spell from the graveyard, which would be really important in this situation because you obviously cannot search with your ritual spells for another ritual spell. So you will run, the Necros player will run quite low on ritual spells, which might cause him to be forced to activate Preparation of Rites to get himself a Clausulus. Another big contender in this format is Shadow. Against Shadow, there are a few things that it does. First of all, the really powerful effect of Falco, which special summons another Shadow from the graveyard, does not work. Also, it's not possible for you to add back your Shadow spell and trap cards with the effect of the fusions and with the effect of Shadow Core. So that card is the Shadow player will have trouble being able to fuse a lot. And if you're having cards on the field from the extra deck, your opponent will not be able to get to his Shadow Fusion quite easily. It's also really good against Teller because basically all the deck does is special summon from the graveyard with cards like Call of the Haunted, Ace of the Dragon, Soul Charge, and their best monster, Saturnite Altair. I did forget to put in Trevere, which normally would special summon from the graveyard when it's destroyed, but that also doesn't happen. So that card doesn't float. Technically it does bounce your Necrovalley when it's summoned, but if you activate it afterwards or your opponent doesn't, we are probably not going to destroy it after the effect of True Rare anyways. You could chain a destruction card to True Rare's effect, then he would still be able to special summon. But getting out True Rare is quite a piece of work under Necrovalley. Again, it's also pretty strong against Infernoids because your opponent cannot banish cards from your from their graveyards, which is like really important for Infernoid. But keep in mind that he can still special summon his Inferno from the graveyard, but he has to banish cards from his hand, so he's kinda really restricted on that, and does use up a lot of hand cards really quick. If he doesn't have an out like instantly he basically has lost. Even against rogue decks like Volcanic, you stop really important plays because he cannot banish the reload to give you the scattershot destruction, and the Firestorm Guard, which is like the most powerful play the deck has because it's like +2 and recycle the scattershots. Doesn't work, and so he can only scattershot activate the effect of scattershot like once before he gets an out, and if you activate it after scattershot resolves, so you prevent even that. So the big upsides of Volcanic do not apply in that situation. He still has the ability to draw cards with having Shellback, but shells will be used up quite quickly as well. And against Ritual Beast, it might not seem like a really powerful card, but the Ritual Beast player will have trouble getting his resources into the banish zone because you cannot get him out of the graveyard with Ambush, Lara, Dephram Pilica, or Apelio. So he will start to pile up lots of resources in his graveyard, so he cannot really cycle for very long. And for the decks you want to run Necrovalley in, you can obviously do that in Yusenju because you have no graveyard play whatsoever, and the same goes for Cleep Port, which also doesn't have any graveyard play. That's you naturally can run it in every other deck that does not really rely on the graveyard. You might wanna not wanna main it because it's not really great if you're playing against clear, and it's not really great against Shadow as well because they can just send Dragon and your Necrovalley is gone. So, but it's really good side deck option at the very least. But you can still main it if you want to, and especially in your locals, it does depend. Maybe there are not really a lot of decks running around that are not graveyard reliant and or having a lot of main deck outs to Necrovalley, because if your opponent does not have an out and is reliant on a graveyard, he basically can scoop against Necrovalley. You should keep that in mind. So this was the tech discussion on Necrovalley. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, please like the video, and if you want, you can subscribe to. Why did I start with that? I don't know. Getting too mainstream. Ciao.